Tip 1. Weapon Pairing. When pairing your weapons, remember not to ignore your CC abilities. Having CC allows you to start creating setups for your big damaging abilities. It's nice to have two different weapons that can do massive damage, but without a proper way to open up your target, they will be able to block your attacks, making the points you spend into those abilities completely useless. Opposed to having a way to get guaranteed damage and make use of all of your abilities that you've spent your points into. You never want to waste points in a skill just for it to be rendered useless because of a casual block by your opponent. Alternatively, if you are going to run a purely DPS build, just make sure you run with a teammate or a group that has crowd control. The Warhammer is a perfect example of effective crowd control for PvP and should be desired for any team. Tip number 2, make use of what you have. No matter what kind of build you do choose to run, make sure one way or another you are using both your weapons in a meaningful way. For an example, if you're running with a ranged weapon, make sure your secondary weapon can create enough space or time to be able to switch back to your ranged weapon after their cooldowns are back up. You don't always want to rely on dodging. You should try to synergize your weapons in a way that makes good use of switching back and forth between the two. Try to pick skills that favor lower cooldowns with your main hand and longer cooldowns with your secondary. This can make switching between the two more optimal and feel way smoother. For pure DPS builds that don't favor sustainability or crowd control, make sure you're able to do significant damage with both weapons. Tip number 3, block canceling. Block canceling is extremely important. Basically what it does is it allows you to cancel your attack animations after you've hit your opponent, but before the animation fully ends. What this does is you will have a quicker way to pull up your block, or you can run and be mobile a lot faster than if you were to wait for the animation to fully end. A side note, I'm not 100% about this, but I do believe for leather and cloth users, instead of using block to cancel the animation, you can instead dodge or roll out of the way. Check out the video in the description for a more in-depth guide on how to block cancel and the benefits for it. Tip number 4, baiting out the enemy. Any build's biggest damage comes from their abilities. Always be aware of this, and try to make yourself look vulnerable even when you're not. For example, maybe you run in, throw a few light attacks, and then roll back out. Try to get them to commit to their abilities or overextend on their rotations, while in the meantime, you still have your evade or defensive abilities still up. When they do miss with their abilities, you will have control of the pace of the fight by having the knowledge that all or at least half of their abilities are on cooldown. From here, try to find a way to break their guard. Go into your crowd control abilities or your practice rotations, all while not having to worry about the opponent doing any significant damage towards you.